Conversion-focused content. This is probably something you've been hearing a lot about if you've been doing any kind of research on the web about online marketing. And although a lot of that is good advice in the sense that you need to know what kind of calls to action you're doing, you need to have a plan for each page, it goes deeper than what is often discussed there. Most often people will talk about things like not overwhelming the reader with too many choices, or having a clear plan for what it is that you want that reader to do when they reach the end of that page. And these are good tips. But something I want to go into today that will really help lock down that content so that it writes itself a little bit easier is walking through what is known as the buyer's journey. As you can see in this image kindly provided by HubSpot on their blog, there are three main areas that we're going to talk about today. Some marketers say that there's five. For the sake of simplicity, let's just stick to three for this. And the reason that touching on these three things are important is there is no magic bullet to writing conversion content. It's not to say that if you just get the right wording, it'll just universally work and convert anyone, because what you're even looking for as a conversion mechanism is going to change depending on where your reader is in the buying process. And the buying process basically you could define as the stages a person moves through when they identify that they have some kind of a problem and end result where they make a purchase. You might be having a problem with your yard and saying, why do I keep having holes in my yard? The answer might be you have moles, or you have some other kind of pest in your yard. The next phase would be things you could do about that. And then the final phase is, and who can actually help me? Most times when people make landing pages, they're focused on the third of those. That landing page has the assumption, you already know you need my service, you already want it, and it's just me selling you on the idea that I'm clearly the best choice and that you should call me, and that's fine, but we're really missing some things, and obviously it's a very different conversation when we'll make it about my industry. If I'm talking to you as though you already know all about SEO, you know you need it, and you're just looking for somebody to do it for you, and if I'm selling you on the idea that it should be me, but you're still at that phase where you're like, I'm not getting phone calls from my website and I'm not really sure why, that's not really going to be the most effective way for me to talk to you if you are that person. So the first stage is what we call the awareness stage. The example they give in this little image is I have a sore throat fever and I'm achy all over, what's wrong with me? That's when this person does not yet know which cold they have or why they're feeling that way, and they're just trying to get educated. They're not ready to make a decision, and if you come on too strong at that point selling, that person's going to back away. They're going to feel like they're being pushed. They're just trying to do research. If you have calls to action on a page or a blog post targeted at a person in this phase, it's probably more to just offer them the information that they're looking for. That might be a good place to try to entice them to sign up for your newsletter. It might be a good place to give a link to a whole series of category related posts where they can read more about that topic and really educate themselves, whether that's on your blog or on some other site, videos, other materials. Make yourself a resource, make yourself valuable. It'll ingratiate you to this person. But this is not a good time to say, call me, buy something. They're just reading right now. You think of the process of buying a car. This is probably where the person is just on Google, looking at some different models, looking at their features. They're not yet at the point where they're actually at the dealership wanting to go for a test drive. So if a salesman, appeared out of thin air while they're reading about a new Lexus and said, here's the keys, let's take it for a ride, you're probably like, whoa, 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 hold on, I'm just reading. The next phase is the consideration stage. This is when the person has actually found the answer to it. Oh, I have strep throat. What are the options for relieving my symptoms? That's a great example because now the person has found the answer to why they're experiencing whatever it is that they want to get past, and they're coming upon the answers. So like in my industry, it might be your phone is not ringing because you're not ranking for the right words. You've chosen poorly on what words you're even ranking for. There's no traffic behind it, or maybe you've poorly optimized your content, blah, blah, blah. Here are things you can do to solve it. And a lot of the content I create is actually centered at stage 2 here for the types of folks that I end up talking to. They know they need SEO. They know a bit about why. but they need to know what they can do about some of the specific challenges they're having, with an answer a little more sophisticated than call me, because that's not always the right choice for people. And so I try to provide things that they can really use to dig into that. And the third choice, of course, is, as they give here, I can see my primary care physician, the ER, or go to a clinic, and they're weighing out the pros and cons of each. And that would, like anything, be at the phase where you're saying, I'm ready to hire someone to do this. Who do I hire? Knowing which one of these three things you're aiming at when you're making a page is huge, because everything about the layout, the presentation of the information, what things you even talk about, and what kinds of calls to action that you're even including at the end are going to vary pretty significantly based on which one of these three. And it's not enough to just have a bunch of landing pages that are right here. People are like, oh, well, we need to have calls to action and blog posts. You could be writing posts about one of these two earlier phases, and then if you're ending the post saying, call me for a consultation, that might not really get the right effect. Probably if you're here, what you want them to do is share your post or subscribe or continue reading and that type of thing. So hopefully that helps you guys a little bit when you're reining in the content here, understanding how we have to be conscious of where our readership is coming from and trying to get inside the mind of what caused them to enter onto the site and be reading what they're reading, and are there correlations between where this traffic is coming from and what their motivations are and what phase of the process are they in, so that we can refine better what type of content do we need to be putting in front of them and how do we best communicate that message to them so that we can build rapport. If that message is off, if we're speaking to someone in a way that they're at a different phase of this process, then it's not going to work. We need to feel like we're providing them with exactly what they're looking for at that moment and gently guiding them to the next phase. And as folks like Matt Diggity often points out, that might mean making, I wouldn't say almost the same landing page, but a similar themed one several different times, each version aimed at one of these specific points of the buying process. Because if you try to appeal to every stage in your content with a landing page, you end up just becoming a one-size-fits-all. And as you've probably read in Marketing Tips, that kind of approach appeals to no one. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos in our series where we're going to dig into how you can refine your content and your SEO for better success online.